Bridging the Gap by Kayla Bragg. Adopters. The innovators are the ones that take risks, and they're the ones that are creating new ideas. Usually it's like leadership or administration, and they're not always respected by their peers or their coworkers, or, those who they're our employees. The early adopters are the ones who usually first accept it coming out of the door. Like, oh yeah, this sounds awesome and innovative, and they like the idea. The early majority are people who have to think through their decisions first. So usually, I'll think about it, and then they usually conform to the idea. The late majority, sometimes they have to be peer pressured into the idea, or they really got to see everybody else is using it in order to feel safe about the idea. And the laggards are the ones who usually don't respect leadership or change, and they must be fully comfortable with the idea to accept it. They're usually the ones who are kind of anti-new change. And the Theorist Rogers talks about all this. Leading a system. So the innovators, the early adopters, and the early majority, they are usually the ones that you need in order to keep pushing the idea. So when you get a new idea, or when you have a new change occurring, people have to be flexible. Flexibility is a major aspect of accepting change or a new idea. You have to be willing to change, and with change comes flexibility. Leading by example is very important. So you need others to see you, accepting the change also. And they need to promote the idea, and, you need the early adopters and early majority and innovators need to provide feedback and have feedback so they can learn from it, and then they also know, like, oh wow, we can do this or that, and that's what they can tell the people who are kind of on the fence about it. Now, when you talk about the Bible, what came to my mind was the story of Noah, and when God asked him to build the ark. Noah was all for it. He didn't question God. He just, he was willing to accept a change, even though there were so many, pretty much everybody besides his own family, who was against the idea or thought he was crazy. Noah was an early adopter who accepted God's change immediately. He did not question it. And in Genesis chapter 6, verse 22, Noah did this. He did all that God commanded him. So God asked him to do it. He said yes, even though it was a huge change because it was literally wiping out the entire world. Moving on, the late majority and the laggards need to feel safe, need to know that the idea is good, it's going to work, that the change is doing what it's supposed to be doing, or what they say it's going to do. Innovators, early adopters, and early majority, they need to provide the feedback and the reassurance of, the new technology or the new change that is happening. They need to be able to share it and keep pushing for it because the late majority usually conforms with peer pressure or, just waiting to see what happens. And then this brings me to Acts chapter 9, where Jesus, he found Paul. Paul was a persecutor of Christians, and then Jesus transformed him into a believer. So in Acts chapter 9, it speaks about how, Paul was going out and pretty much killing off the people who believed in Jesus, or believed in God, and Jesus came down and shined his light on him, and Paul ultimately, bent down to his knees, and even though he was so much against Christ and God, Jesus transformed him into being a believer. And that makes me think of the laggards. Modeling Christ. Jesus is the ultimate role for everyone. Ultimately, when you look at who's the perfect role model, we all think of Jesus. In Titus chapter 2, verses 7 to 8, It says, show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works, and in your teaching show integrity, dignity, and sound speech that cannot be condemned, so that an opponent may be put to shame, having nothing evil to say about us. So here it's just saying that you need to also be a model, so that people can't say, well, they did this or they did that. And being a model is a very big part of, promoting a new idea. As leaders and innovators, we are the mentors and the example to our coworkers, and we must lead by example. I think that is very crucial. And these are my references. Thank you.